Faithful, lock in because Santa Clara is sending signals nobody can afford to ignore. There's movement at the pro day, help coming into the secondary, a possibility that could still shake up this pass rush, and a pre-draft visit that says a whole lot about the kind of offense this team wants to build. This isn't empty noise. This is contender energy from a team that knows it cannot miss right now. So stay with me all the way through and tell me if you're feeling this same tension. Now let me ask you this. Who still has the nerve to say every little pre-draft detail means nothing? Because the 49ers local pro day left behind a signal that feels way louder than people want to admit. Several Stanford players showed up, but Sam Roush, the most intriguing tight end in that group, was not there. And that matters to me, because when a prospect at that level doesn't step into that kind of contact with San Francisco, the whole read changes immediately. Maybe it's the market, maybe it's internal strategy, but one thing it is not is random. And here's the part that really hits the fan base. Tight end does not look like the biggest need on this roster right now. Everybody knows that. The 49ers have bigger fires to put out, limited draft picks, and they're trying to attack the spots where the pressure is pounding on the front door the hardest. But championship football is not built by only staring at today's hole. It's also built by protecting tomorrow. And when the conversation turns to George Kittle, as legendary as he is, this discussion has to be handled with real seriousness. Kittle is still the soul of this offense, the heartbeat, the edge, the physical identity of the whole machine. But he's coming off an Achilles tear. Is there optimism he'll be ready early in the season? Sure. But betting the whole table on that without preparing a backup plan would be reckless. Jake Tongas and Luke Farrell can hold things together. They can eat snaps. They can steady the room. But replacing Kittle's real impact? That's a whole different storm. So Roush's absence opens up two strong readings. Either San Francisco does not plan to spend a draft pick on a tight end, or the team believes he'll be off the board and would rather pour its energy into more urgent battles. To me, this is the kind of quiet clue that gives away how an experienced front office thinks before the rest of the league catches up. And if that read is right, the Niners are basically saying, without saying it, that this draft is going to be about immediate need, competitive pressure, and fast help. Maybe that's not the flashy decision for people dreaming about the future, but it absolutely sounds like a team that knows a Super Bowl window waits for nobody. Now the conversation leaves the world of reading signals and steps into the world of action, because the 49ers brought in Jack Jones for a visit, and the answer came fast. 1-year deal, done. And I'm going to say it straight, this kind of move may not explode like a national headline, but it helps a team that's trying to punch its way back into respect. The secondary needed more bodies, more competition, and more players who can get on the field without every snap feeling like a group prayer. Jones brings real NFL experience with him. He's been through the Patriots, the Raiders, and then the Dolphins, and in 2025 he played all 17 games for Miami. That matters because availability matters too when a roster is trying to reset without losing its contender edge. He posted 77 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles, and 6 passes defensed. Those are not empty numbers. That is not a fake resume built to juice up the crowd. That is production from a player who was active, involved, and competing all year long. And when you zoom out, his career tells you even more about why this kind of swing makes sense. Across 4 seasons, Jack Jones has played in 59 games, started 38, racked up 213 tackles, 33 passes defended, 8 interceptions, and even scored 4 defensive touchdowns. That does not happen by accident. A player with that kind of track record has ball instincts, has guts, and has the ability to throw an offense into chaos when he's playing with confidence. So now the big question is simple. Which version of Jack Jones does Santa Clara believe it can unlock? Because if this coaching staff plugs him into a more stable structure, this deal could become way more than depth. It could become real value. It could become a reliable rotational piece. It could become an answer for a secondary that does not have the luxury of cracking if this team wants to fight its way back to the top of the NFC. And now we get to the story that makes the entire fan base lean forward the second it comes up. Because the minute you put the name Bosa next to San Francisco, the temperature in the room changes. John Lynch addressed the Joey Bosa speculation and was honest when he said he does not believe the 49ers can afford the veteran right now. And honestly, I get it. You cannot pretend the budget is infinite after an offseason where this franchise already made major commitments, put Mike Evans on the roster, brought in Christian Kirk, added Dre Greenlaw, and reinforced the defensive front with Osa Odigizua. That costs money. That squeezes flexibility. That tightens every move. But the reason this story refuses to die is what happened to the pass rush in 2025. The 49ers finished the season with only 20 sacks, dead last in the NFL. That is unacceptable for a team with Super Bowl ambitions. That is not enough pressure, not enough pocket collapse, not enough destruction on third down. And when a defense loses its ability to hunt the quarterback, everything else starts to wobble. The secondary gets exposed. Games drag out. The physical identity of the team loses its bite. So no, you cannot just brush Joey Bosa off like some fantasy cooked up by the fan base. The need is real, and it's heavy. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Maybe San Francisco is not saying no to Joey Bosa. Maybe it's saying not yet. And that changes everything. Gilberto Manzano of Sports Illustrated still sees the 49ers as the ideal landing spot for him, mainly because the draft could decide this whole saga. If the board delivers an edge rusher who can help early, great. The team solves the problem on a more controlled cost. But if those names disappear, if the fit is not there, if the front office feels the available talent does not truly raise the ceiling of the defense, then the veteran market could come roaring back into play with a whole different level of urgency. Of course, there's risk in that kind of bet. Joey turns 31 in July. He has not hit double-digit sacks since 2021, and injuries have taken their toll on his recent path. But there is another side to this that nobody should ignore. He still flashed real juice late in his most recent stop, posting 5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. And while all that's happening, Nick Bosa is working his way back from an ACL injury and appears to be on track for the start of the 2026 season. So let me say this to you as your host and as a fan. If the draft fails to deliver the edge this team needs, it is going to be very hard to hold back the pressure for a Joey push. Because a contender with a wounded pass rush cannot operate on pride. At some point, it has to operate on hunger. And I'm right here with you, your guy at the desk on the front line of Niners news, watching every Santa Clara move like someone who knows a real contender cannot go quiet and soft. And this Caleb Douglas visit deserves attention, because this is not just some routine pre-draft checkbox. When the 49ers bring in a wide receiver with this kind of profile for a closer look, I see a very clear message about what this offense may still want to tweak before the season gets here. Douglas has a path that blends development with pure athletic pop. He started at Florida, transferred to Texas Tech, and finished his college career with 135 catches, 2,031 yards, and 16 touchdowns. In 2025 alone, he played all 14 games, hauled in 54 catches, led the team with 846 receiving yards, and scored 7 touchdowns. And that's before you even get to the combine, where he ripped off a 4.39 in the 40. So yeah, we're talking about a big target, real speed, and enough production to jump on the radar of any offense that wants to be more aggressive down the field. And why does that hit so hard in the 49ers case? Because the wide receiver room went through a serious shakeup this offseason. Mike Evans and Christian Kirk came in, yes, but the team also moved on from Juwan Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, and Sky Moore, while Brandon Ayuk's exit still feels like the expected road ahead. So you cannot look at this visit and act like it has nothing to do with the immediate future of that room. It does, loudly. If Douglas really impresses, he could become another renewal piece in a group that is still searching for its next identity around this offense. And now I want to hear the fan base loud in the comments. Would you spend a pick on this kind of big, fast receiver? Or do you think the Niners need to attack another priority first? Because that debate says a lot about how each of us sees the next version of this team. At the end of the day, the message out of Santa Clara is crystal clear for anyone following this team without flinching. The 49ers are moving pieces like contenders, not like a franchise drifting through the offseason. There are draft clues, there's a secondary adjustment, there's a pass rush storyline that could still heat up, and there's a visit that may be foreshadowing a real change on offense. None of this feels random. It all points to a front office that knows the window is still open, but it demands sharp decisions right now. If you see it the way I see it, drop your take, subscribe to the channel, and come back tomorrow, because with the Niners, there is always another major signal waiting to be decoded.